Have you ever felt, caught up in the modern work grind, maybe searching for something deeper, some meaning beyond just the tasks, or maybe just struggling with those challenges that always seem to crop up in your career?
Hmm.
Well, what if I told you that some of the most uh, profound, really actionable answers,
Yeah.
what if they came not from the latest business book, but from somewhere, well, ancient?
It does sound a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? But yeah, today we're actually going to take a deep dive into exactly that. We're exploring the timeless wisdom in the Bhagavad Gita
Right.
and looking at its surprisingly direct, sort of practical relevance to finding purpose and just navigating your career today.
Exactly. Our source material for this is excerpts from Bhagavad Gita, Wisdom for Career and Purpose.
Right.
And our mission really is to unpack specific verses from this amazing text.
Mm.
We want to reveal how these ancient philosophical ideas can offer genuinely practical guidance. For professional growth, for work ethic, and even help you find a richer sense of purpose in what you do every day, whatever your job is.
Yeah, and I think before we jump into specific verses, it's maybe worth touching on why the Gita is so important generally. It's seen as this foundational text, right? A guide to profound life wisdom.
Definitely.
But what makes it stick, I think, isn't just the spiritual side. It's that it gives a framework for living meaningfully in, well, any situation.
And that universality, that's really key, isn't it? Because when you start reading it, you see it encourages both things.
Yeah.
Like deep introspection,
Yeah.
looking at your motivations, your values. But at the same time, it pushes you towards decisive action out in the world. It's not about hiding away.
No, not at all. It's about engaging, but engaging consciously. That's where its genius lies, I think. It doesn't say don't act.
Right.
It gives a blueprint for conscious action. Understanding your inner world helps you engage better outwardly. So in your career, that introspection helps clarify goals, strengths, weaknesses. And that clarity means you can act more deliberately, not just, react constantly. What's fascinating here is how these ancient insights address universal human dilemmas about work and responsibility.
Dilemmas we still face constantly.
Exactly, they just transcend time and culture, which makes them so applicable to our professional lives, even now.
Okay, so with that grounding, let's dive into the specifics. Maybe start with one of the most famous verses, chapter 2, verse 47, spoken by Lord Krishna.
Ah, yes. Karmanya vadikaraste mafalesho karachana. Makarma falahetar burmeti sangosva karmani.
Which basically translates to, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results, nor be attached to inaction. Wow, okay, that sounds deep. But for listeners in this very results-driven world, how does this idea of not being entitled to the fruits work? How does it translate practically without just making you, well, not care?
That's the crucial point, isn't it? It's not about apathy. It's actually about freeing up your mental energy. Think about it. If your peace of mind isn't constantly tied to whether you get the promotion or the project succeeds, you're actually freer. Freer to innovate, to adapt, to perform with a kind of clarity that being attached just doesn't allow. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is about resilience and managing expectations in a results-driven world.
Resilience, right.
For professionals, this guides us to focus intensely on the effort, on the process, not obsessing only about the outcome. Say you're launching something new.
Okay.
The Gita suggests putting your energy into the quality of the research, the teamwork, the execution, not just fixating on day one sales targets. Detachment from results, maybe paradoxically, reduces stress.
I can see that.
It fosters consistency, and often it actually improves performance because you're not choked by anxiety about what if. You can focus on the what is.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. So detaching from results builds resilience. Then the Gita seems to go deeper into how we actually do the work itself.
Yeah.
Which brings us to chapter 3, verse 19.
Right. Tasmad asakta satata karya karma samakara, asakto hi akaran karma param apnoti purua.
Which means, therefore, always perform your duty without attachment. By working without attachment, one attains the supreme.
Okay, let's unpack this. It builds on the last one, clearly. It's not about not caring, right? It's about how you engage with the work. It sounds like performing your responsibilities with, real sincerity, dedication, integrity.
Exactly.
Giving your absolute best, not just because of the potential reward or fear of failure, but because doing good work is the point. You're not letting those outcomes define your self-worth. The motivation is internal.
Precisely. You're not clinging to the outcome. You're focused on the quality of the action itself. which naturally leads to better results anyway, often.
So once we get that idea, perform duties without clinging to results, the next obvious question is, well, which duties? And this is where the Gita guides us towards authenticity. Chapter 18, verse 45.
Okay. Lord Krishna says, Svesvikarman avirata sasiti labhati naro. Svakarma nirata sithiyata vindati takcho.
And the meaning is essentially, by performing one's own duty, one attains perfection. Let me explain how. Now, this raises an important question, I think, for many of us. Are you doing what you're truly meant to do, using your unique talents? Or are you doing what you feel you have to do, maybe for external reasons? This verse stresses aligning your work with your inherent nature, your strengths, your talents.
So finding your lane, almost.
Sort of, yeah. When your career path resonates with who you genuinely are, not just chasing status or money, you naturally move towards excellence and real fulfillment. It's about finding your specific contribution and excelling there because it fits you.
Yep.
It's not about shirking responsibility, but finding how your natural self can best meet those responsibilities. That leads to more impact and more satisfaction.
That idea of finding your specific contribution. It gets even deeper in the very next verse, doesn't it? Chapter 18, verse 46.
It does. Yata pravatir bhutana yena sarvamidatatam sakarmentam abhirse siti vindati manava.
And the translation is really striking. By worshiping the source of all beings through one's own work, a person attains perfection. Okay, worshiping through work, that sounds intense. How can we translate that into, say, managing spreadsheets or dealing with customer complaints?
Yeah, it's about a perspective shift. Think of an artist lost in their painting, not just for gallery fame, but because the act of creating feels like an offering.
Okay.
Or maybe a scientist in a lab seeing each experiment as a kind of respectful conversation with nature's laws.
Right.
This verse suggests viewing your daily tasks, even the mundane ones, as a form of contribution, service, part of a larger whole. That perspective can bring immense purpose and integrity.
So it elevates the work.
Absolutely. It turns it from just a chore into something more meaningful. An act of offering your best self with care and integrity, whether you're coding, teaching, serving food, whatever it is, infusing it with intention.
And that connection to the larger whole.
Yeah.
That seems to be exactly what the next verse touches on.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, verse 16.
Yes. Evam parvartitam chakram nanuvartayataya agar intriyaram mokam partha sajivati.
Meaning, he who does not follow the wheel of creation set in motion, living in sin and delighting in the senses, lives in vain. That phrase, wheel of creation, what does that really signify here, and how does it connect to our work lives?
Well, in the Gita's philosophy, this wheel often refers to the sort of cosmic cycle of interdependence. Everything sustains everything else through actions, contributions.
Like an ecosystem.
Exactly. We're not isolated, we're part of this larger system. So applying this ancient idea to modern work, this verse highlights the societal aspect. Contributing through your work is essential for a meaningful life. If we only live for, sensory pleasure, instant gratification, and don't contribute productively, the text suggests we risk feeling empty, living in vain. It links our individual effort to the collective good.
So our job isn't just about us.
Right. It reminds us our work matters to the community, to the world. However small it might seem, it keeps that wheel turning.
That's quite a perspective shift. Okay, and finally, this feels like it brings us to a really foundational point, almost an antidote to procrastination. Chapter 3, verse 8.
Where Krishna instructs, Yatam kuru karmatva, karma jayuhyakmam, sharirayachapikatanapta karma.
And the message is crystal clear. Perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. Even the maintenance of your body would not be possible without work. So what's the bottom line here for us today, especially when it's easy to just not act?
Yeah, it's a direct call to action. It talks about the basic necessity of work, of action, not just for climbing the ladder or getting achievements, but for your own growth, your well-being, even just basic sustenance. The Gita is very practical here. Life requires effort.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
So this verse really counters procrastination, idleness. It underlines that work, whether it's mental work, creative, physical. It's integral to life. It's the doing that moves you forward, helps you grow, keeps you part of that wheel we talked about. Inaction isn't neutral. It's actually a step backward.
Wow. What an incredible sweep through these verses. It's really striking how relevant these ancient ideas feel for our work lives right now.
Absolutely. It's quite powerful when you see it laid out, focusing on effort over outcome. performing duties without that anxious attachment, aligning work with your true nature.
Yeah, and seeing work as a contribution, recognizing its role in society, and just embracing action over inaction. It all ties together.
It really does. It's clear these aren't just, lofty philosophical points. They offer a genuinely practical toolkit for navigating your career with more purpose, maybe less stress, and hopefully deeper fulfillment.
So as you listening go about your day, maybe you're tackling a project, heading into a meeting, or just thinking about what's next for you. Here's a thought. How might consciously applying just one of these timeless principles from the Bhagavad Gita, how might that shift your approach to your career and purpose? Starting today, something to really reflect on perhaps, see where that ancient wisdom might guide you on your very modern professional path.